Hi, this is Mass Rundown. If you enjoy movie reviews, short and trailer reactions, you're in the right place. So why not subscribe and hit the like button down below.
Today we're looking at a documentary from the Joburg Film Festival, Schools Shut Down. Schools Shut Down is a South African documentary directed by Kastarine Kgola.
The documentary follows Buhle Mdluli, a bright student in the Orange Farm area who, during the COVID-19 lockdown, tries to maintain her education through online learning with limited, if any, resources. I think this documentary is interesting in the fact that it gives us a look into how kids in South Africa in areas without a lot of resources have really been dealing with the lockdown, dealing with maintaining an education. Because in reality, a lot of these kids' futures and hopes and dreams are very much bound within the education system. Because with varsity being free now, if you do well at school, get accepted into a good program, you can go study.
Yes.
Like, unlike in the past when we were in matric, doesn't matter how well you did, chances are
If
you were
have the money.
screwed.
Yeah.
Now it's like real hope of getting out, and COVID is pretty much messed it up for a lot of people.
Yeah. And I think it's an important snapshot because when the COVID-19 happened, when all the lockdowns happened, everybody was very focused on themselves. How do we get through this? What are we going to be doing? How do we survive? And it's also good to take a step back and think, how did other people deal with this? And school is something I actually didn't really think about. I knew the schools closed with it, but how did that really impact people? Because, yeah, in these areas like Orange Farm, they're not getting access to internet. So your schooling literally comes to a halt.
A lot of people don't even have access to electricity, so the internet is really a much further concept, I don't know, or worry.
I mean, they have their cell phones, but even that you need to buy airtime to get data to...
And you need to charge it in order to be able to use it.
True.
I know in part of the documentary we saw that she had to hand in assignments and stuff online by a certain deadline. How do kids realistically do that when they don't have the resources to do it?
You're talking about the electricity. It showed us a lot of like having to run an extension cord over to the neighbors just to power the stove or the kettle or charge a cell phone for a little bit so they have a little bit of access to some internet.
You went to a private school, so I'm sure the private schools made a plan and were fine.
They probably did, yeah.
Brackpen Highway, I went, they were like public, but not terribly well off, but not, too bad.
It wasn't an area like Orange Farm, and so
I think in our area, most people had some access at least. There, getting access...
Scary.
It's scary to think that people in the same country can live in such different ways.
Yeah, circumstances are completely different.
So even from like the private schools to the public schools, but in better areas than towns versus, the public schools in Orange Farm and those areas, the resources are just so different. And then you're vying for the same spots at university. So you can see why people stay poor.
Yeah.
Because it's so hard to get out of. What I did like was, even in the darkest of times, there's always that one or two people that bring hope.
Yes.
Like her teacher or the tutor that charges like 100 Rand a month, which is nothing.
Yeah.
To help them and teach them.
And at least there is some form of education going, and like you say, some form of hope going in the area, and it's important, and you need people like that, and they're often underappreciated, and the big stories are never about the people that take in the 5 or 6 kids to teach them during the pandemic. We never really hear about those stories, so it's nice to actually see it on film, and I liked it.
Yeah, because I think 100 Rand isn't a lot to ask for tutoring for the month. If I tutored someone, I probably would ask more than that, an hour. So the teacher is doing an amazing job because he knows even 100 Rand a month is a difficult thing for most people in that area. So it's amazing that people give up their time and do that.
And that probably just covers his overheads, if that.
Doubtful. I think he was just being nice. And sometimes I think it's good to charge something because at least then people are more motivated to work.
Yeah.
and not come to your home and be disruptive.
So then it was a documentary, so we do need to talk just a little bit about the filmmaking, and it was done very well. It was very personal. You got a very in-depth look at them, and it's an important snapshot. I did have a problem where it felt a bit unfocused. Almost, it felt like the filmmaker went in there and looked for a story, didn't really know what they were going to do. And hearing the interviews afterwards, that's exactly what she did.
Yeah.
And you can kind of see that through the filmmaking. So it's done very well, but there's no real, almost like, I don't want to say passion behind it, but having watched a lot of the other Joburg film festivals, there was so much passion behind High Maintenance. There was so much passion behind the, I forget that immigrant camp.
What bugged me a little bit is the synopsis that they gave was that she was going to medical school, or she wants to go to medical school, whereas like that wasn't even mentioned in the documentary, really.
Not once, no.
So I would have liked to have seen more of that. Like, why did she want to go to medical, particularly? I mean, if that's your synopsis about it.
Yes. Where did that come from?
Yeah. And obviously I'm interested in that.
Yes. And if Butle's passion was to go into medical school, it would be an interesting, I think it would have served the documentary well to go into her motivation, to go into why she's struggling towards this. Because it's not an easy thing to go into medical school, especially in those circumstances. So why are you struggling towards this? Why aren't you just like, whatever I get, I'm happy? I
think the synopsis would have been better served, and maybe we would have felt less disappointed, at least I think I would have, if they just said, follows a girl struggling to get past matric.
Yeah, because that's what it was in essence.
So that whole med school thing, I didn't like that synopsis because I was more invested in the beginning, and then when it played through, I was kind of disappointed.
Less invested.
I think it would be a nice thing to end off with the quote that the teacher gives or the tutor in the movie, because I've never heard it before, but I kind of like it. And so basically he says that you need to strive for the top because the bottom is overcrowded.
Yeah.
So work really hard, get where you want to be, because there's so many people struggling. So you have to do something to kind of stand out and to push you.
Yes.
Otherwise you get lost in the crowd. I don't know.
And also, with the bottom being overcrowded, kind of means there's space on the top. So strive for it, because you can get there.
Of course. Don't forget to like and subscribe. Bye.
Later.